All right, in algebra today, we're looking at factoring trinomials. We're going to do this when a equals 1 or when a does not equal 1. Now, what does that mean? Well, first of all, here's two factors, okay? If I multiply these together, I can do the FOIL method. All right, in the FOIL method, I do my first one. So this is 1x times 1x, which would be 1x squared. Then I do my outer ones, which would be these two right here. X times -4, which is -4x. Then I do my inner ones. 3 times x is a positive 3x. And then the L stands for doing the last ones. 3 times -4 is -12. And this is my product of that. Well, those two are like terms, so if I put them together, this is what I end up with, and this is called a trinomial. It's called a trinomial because it has three terms that are all distinct. They can't go together. Oh, left my L off. Trinomial. In this trinomial, right here, the coefficient in front of the x squared is a 1. That's my A. Right there, the coefficient in front of the x term is -1. That's my B. And of course, this constant term, that's my C. There's my A, my B, and my C. So when we factor trinomials, sometimes A is 1, sometimes A is not 1. It all depends on what this first number is, the A. Okay, well, in factoring, we're going to take this trinomial and we want to get back to these two factors. That's what factoring is. We want to get the trinomial and figure out what the two factors are that FOIL together to get that trinomial. And that's what we're doing in factoring. So, looking at this first one here, we've got x squared plus 5x minus 36. What are the factors for this? All right, well, if you notice, the A number is 1 here. There's no A number. So, when the A number is 1, I just take 36. I don't worry about the sign. We'll worry about the signs at the very end. I take my 36 and I break it down every which way possible. So the easiest way is to start with 1 and divide. 36 divided by 1 is 36. 36 divided by 2 is 18. 36 divided by 3 is 12. 36 divided by 4 is 9. 36 divided by 5 is 7.2, which is a decimal. So we skip that. Then we go to 6. 36 divided by 6 is 6. And now I'm finished because I got to a number that's on this side. So I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just keep going till I get to a number that's on this side. That tells me I've got all the factors of that number. Okay? Now once I write all these out, I look at my trinomial, and this last sign right here is a minus, which tells me I need to subtract these two numbers, and I should get this number right here, 5. I should get the B number. Now, which ones of these subtract and get 5? Well, 36 minus 1 is 35. 18 minus 2 is 16. 12 minus 3 is 9. 9 minus 4 is 5. There it is right there. That's the two numbers for my factors. So I put them in. So here's my factors. X times x is x squared. 4 times 9 is 36. Okay? And now put my signs in. That's the last thing. My signs. Well, this sign in the middle for the B number is positive. This sign always goes to the bigger of these two numbers down here. So this sign is going to go over here. Now what's the sign for this one? Well, it depends on the last sign. Now I made a note here. The last sign of the trinomial. If the last sign's a plus, then that means both of your signs in your factors have to be the same. They're either both plus or they're both minus. But if the last sign of your trinomial is a negative, then that means you have to have a positive and a negative. You have to. Well, in this one, my last sign of the trinomial is a negative. So that tells me right there I got to have a positive and a negative. Well, I've already got a positive automatically from this one. So this has to be negative. And there's my two factors right there. Now, after you're done, you can do FOIL method, and you should be able to multiply them together and get this. And I did this in my head already, and it does work out. Okay, let's do another one. Here's one here. All right, there's no A number. See that? So again, I take my 72, and we'll write it over here. I'm going to break it down. 72 divided by 1, 72 divided by 2, 72 divided by 3 is 24, 72 divided by 4 is 18, 72 divided by 5 is 14.4. So I skip that because 5 is not it doesn't factor out. It doesn't divide evenly. So I go to 6. 72 divided by 6 is 12. 72 divided by 7 is 10 point something, so it don't go, so skip it. 72 divided by 8 is 9. 9 is next, and it's over there, so that tells me I'm done. So I just keep going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, till I get to a number on this side, and that tells me I'm done. I don't want to go all the way to 72. That'd just be a waste of time. So as these numbers get bigger, these numbers get lower, and I just go to where I meet. And that simplifies it. Okay, now, once I have these factors, I look at my last sign here, which is of negative, which means I'm going to subtract again. I got to subtract these numbers, and I'm supposed to get, right there, 6. I'm supposed to subtract them and get 6. Well, right there it is. 12 minus 6 is 6. None of these other ones subtract and get 6. So there's my two numbers for my factors. So let's put them in. I've got an x and a 12. I got an x and a 6. I'll put them in. It doesn't matter which order you put them in. And there you go. Now all we got to do is put our signs in. Well, this sign right here always goes to the big one. This always goes to the big one, which is right here, 12. So that minus goes there. Now, the last sign of the trinomial, and this one is negative. So since it's negative, that tells me I have to have a positive and a negative. Well, I've already got a negative there. So this has to be a positive. And there's my factors. And of course, you can do FOIL method. X times x is x squared. I got a negative 12x. I got a positive 6x, which is negative 6x. And then negative 12 times 6 is negative 72. So it does work out, so it's good. So it's always good to use FOIL method to check your answer afterwards. Okay, here's another one. And again, no a number, so I'm going to take 48. 48 divided by 1 is 48. 48 divided by 2 is 24. 48 divided by 3 is 16. 48 divided by 4 is 12. 48 divided by 5 is 9.6, so we skip it because it's a decimal. 48 divided by 6 is 8. 48 divided by 7 is like 6.9. I skip it. And then 8 would be next, and it's already over there, so I'm done. So there's all my possibilities. I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, till I get to a number on that side. Okay? Now again, we're a subtract here. This last sign's a minus, so I got to subtract. And they should equal 2. Well, it's right there, 6 and 8. 6 and 8 subtract and equal 2. All right, so that's my two numbers, 6 and 8. So I got an x and a 6. I got an x and an 8. Now I put my signs in. This one here automatically goes to the big one. Now this last sign, they're all minus. Today, the last sign's a minus, which means I have to have a positive and a negative. So I've already got a negative. That has to be a positive. Okay. All right, let's go to another one here. All right, here's one. X squared minus 16x plus 60. All right, again, my a is 1. So I just take my 60. 60 divided by 1, 60 divided by 2, 60 divided by 3, 60 divided by 4, 60 divided by 5, 60 divided by 6, 60 divided by 7, that's a decimal, so skip it. 60 divided by 8 is a decimal. 60 divided by 9 is a decimal. And then 10's over here, so we're done. That's it. Okay? All right, now let's look and find the ones. Now this is a plus now, so I'm going to add them. I've got to add these and get 16. Well, it's the last one here. It's been the last one a couple times now, but it's just a coincidence. So I have an x and a 6. I have an x and a 10. Okay, these go in my factors. X is in the front, 6 and 10 in the back. And then the last thing I do is my signs. So this one automatically goes to the big one. And now this last sign's a plus. And the last sign being a plus tells me they're either both positive or they're both negative. Well, this one's already negative, so it must mean they both be negative then. So this is a negative too. Okay. Here's another one. Man, every one of these last ones are minus. Let's see if I can find one that has a plus. Let me change this one, okay? I'm going to change this one. let's do this one. X squared plus 13x plus 36. Let's do this one instead. So we have another plus one. All right, so there's no a number, so I take my 36 and break it down. 36 divided by 1, 36 divided by 2, 36 divided by 3. You just use your calculator, just keep dividing. 36 divided by 4 is 9, 36 divided by 5 is a decimal, 36 divided by 6 is 6, and I got to a number over there, so I'm done. But you can just use the calculator. I'm doing this in my head, but just keep going. 36 divided by 1, divided by 36, divided by 2, 36, divided by 3, and just keep typing them in and in. But you got to get these numbers here. Now, since this last sign here is a plus, I'm going to add these, and I got to get 13. So which ones add and get 13? I think right here, 4 and 9. They add up to 13. All right, so that means my factors then, I've got x and x for x squared, I've got 4 and 9, and then this one goes to the big one. And then the last sign, again, my last sign is a plus, which means they're both positive or they're both negative. Well, here I've already got a positive in this one automatic, so they must both be positive then. Okay. All right, let's go one more here. There's no a term, so I break down 24. 24 divided by 1 is 24, 24 divided by 2, 24 divided by 3, 24 divided by 4, 24 divided by 5 is a decimal, and then 6 is over there. So that's all the possibilities here. Now, which ones do I need? Well, since this is a minus, I've got to subtract these, and it's got to equal 2. Well, that's 4 and 6. Okay, so I've got x and 4, x and 6. Okay, now this one here, this sign always goes to the big number, which 6 is bigger than 4, so that goes over here. And then the last sign's a minus, and if your last sign's a minus, you got to have a positive and a negative. I've already got a positive, so this must be my negative right there. Okay. All right, so let's factor in trinomials when a equals 1. But what about if a does not equal 1? All right, well, then we get into a little bit different ball game then, and it kind of is a little bit harder then. So here's one here where a does not equal 1. Okay, now when a does not equal 1, there's a few more steps. It's the same kind of process, but a few more steps involved. Here I've got to do 6 times 1, which is 6 for my last number. And I break down 6. Now this one's a pretty easy one. 6 divided by 1 is 6, 6 divided by 2 is 3, 3 is next, so that's it. These are all your possibilities. Okay, now, I got to have the ones that add and get 5. Now I've got to add them and get 5. You got to make sure you know what you're doing, because see, 6 minus 1, if I subtract these, I get 5. And I'm not doing subtraction, I'm doing add. And here's the answers right here, 2 and 3. They add and get 5. Okay, so that means in my factors, I've got an x and a 2, I've got an x and a 3. Okay, but because I've got that 6 in front, I'm going to have to put these both over 6. Okay, so whenever you have this a number here, you got to put your factors you find, you got to put them both over that number, which is 6. And then I can put my signs in. Well, this one here always goes to the big one, and 3 over 6 is bigger than 2 over 6, so that's going to go here. Now, my last sign in this trinomial is a plus. And if the last sign's a plus, they're both positive or they're both negative. So this is already positive, so they're both positive then. So there's my signs. Okay? Now, we can't have fractions in our factors. We just can't do it. So I'm going to have to see if these simplify. So got my trusty calculator here, if you have to use a calculator. 2 6 simplifies to 1/3. Now what you can do is 2 divided by 6, hit enter, okay, and there it is. And then I think you just change it to a fraction right here, 1/3. Okay, so this is x plus 1/3 is what that simplifies to. But it's still a fraction. And we're not supposed to have fractions, so basically what I'm going to do is the 3 will just slide over in front of the x. And there's my factor for that one. On this one, 3 over 6, use your calculator if you need to. 3 divided by 6. Okay, that's 0.5, and then change it to a fraction. That's 1/2. Okay, if you have to use the calculator, that's fine. But it's still a fraction. We're not supposed to have fractions. So the 2 on the bottom, I'll just move him over in front of the x, which gives me 2x plus 1 right there on top. So right here, the 3 came over in front of the x. That gave me 3x plus 1 on top. The 2 came over in front of the x, 2x plus 1 on top. And there's my factors right there. And if I do FOIL method, I should get this up here. I'm going to do it real quick. 3x times 2x is 6x squared. Okay. Do the outer ones. 3x times 1 is a positive 3x. Do the inners. 1 times 2x is a 2x. And then do the last ones. 1 times 1 is 1. And then look here, these are like terms. That gives me 5x. So I've got 6x squared plus 5x plus 1, and it's right. Okay, here's another one we'll do. See, we got an A number of 15. All right, so I got to take 15 times 2. So I do this number times that number right there. 15 times 2 is 30. So that could be 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10. I'm just dividing. 30 divided by 3 is 10. 30 divided by 4 is a decimal. 30 divided by 5 is 6. 6 is next. So I'm done. Okay, so you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep going until you get to a number on this side. Now, my last number is a minus, so I'm going to subtract. Okay, which ones subtract and get 7? I've got to subtract these and get 7. Looks like right there, 3 and 10. They subtract and get 7. So those are my factors. So I'm going to have an x and a 3, x and a 10. But because of this 15, I got to put both of these over 15. Now my signs, this sign always goes to the big one, which 10 over 15 is bigger than 3 over 15, so that sign's going to go here. And my last sign's a minus. Again, last sign being a minus, I have to have a positive and a negative. I've already got a positive, so there's a negative. Okay? But now I can't have fractions, so I simplify these fractions. Well, this one simplifies. That's going to be 1/5. This one simplifies. That's going to be 2/3. But they're still fractions. And I'm not supposed to have fractions, so the bottom number, the 5, will slide over in front of this x, which gives me 5x minus 1. And there's that factor. And this 3, same thing, will slide over in front of that x. So it's going to be 3x plus the top number 2. And there's my factors right there. And I can do FOIL method, and I should get this. And I'll do it real quick in my head. 15x, negative 3, plus 10 be 7. Negative 2, yes, it does work. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, let's get it focused. What's going on here? We won't focus. Okay. Focus is there. Oh, there we go. I don't know what happened. So we got a number of 6. So I do 6 times 15, which is 90. Okay, 90 divided by 1 is 90. 90 divided by 2 is 45. 90 divided by 3 is 30. 90 divided by 4 is a decimal. 90 divided by 5 is 18. 90 divided by 6 is 15. 90 divided by 7 is a decimal. 90 divided by 8 is a decimal. 90 divided by 9 is 10. And then 10's next, so there we go. So there's all my possibilities of 90. Okay, now, my last sign's a minus, which means I'm going to subtract. I got to subtract these numbers, and I'm supposed to get a 1. That's a 1 right there. Well, right here it is. 10 minus 9 is 1. So there's my numbers that go in the factors. Okay, so I'm going to have an x and a 9, x and a 10. Okay, but because of this 6 in front, I got to divide both of these by 6. Okay, then I put my signs in. Well, this sign always goes to the bigger of these two, and 10 over 6 is bigger than 9 over 6, so that minus is going to go over here. Okay, now the last sign's a minus. And of course, again, on a trinomial, the last sign's a minus. You have to have a positive and a negative in your factors. So I've already got a negative in this factor. I'm going to have a positive over there in that one. And there's my factors. But I can't have fractions, so I simplify them. So right here, 9 over 6, that simplifies 3 over 2. Still a fraction, though. How about this one? X minus 10 over 6 simplifies to 5 over 3. It's still a fraction. Oh, me. Well, that means the bottom number here, I'm going to slide it in front of the x. There's that factor. This bottom number is going to slide over in front of the x. And there you go. There's my answer. If I do FOIL method, I will get that right there. It's always good to check your FOIL method. Let's try this one. 8 times 3 is 24. Okay, 24 divided by 1, 24 divided by 2, 24 divided by 3, 24 divided by 4, 24 divided by 5 is a decimal, 6 is over there. So that's it. Now, can you see where we need to go? I need to subtract and get 2. Well, right there, 4 and 6. All right, x and 4, x and 6. All right, well, I got this 8 in front, so both of these are divided by 8. Okay, now this goes to the big one, which is over here. And my last sign, again, my last sign's a negative on this one, so I got to have a positive and a negative. Already got a positive, so this one over here is going to have to be a negative. Okay, now I can't have fractions, so I simplify them. Well, that's going to be x minus 1/2. This is going to be x plus 3/4, but they're still fractions. 4/8 is 1/2, 6/8 is 3/4. They're still fractions, so this denominator is going to slide over in front of the x, and there's this one. And right here, this denominator 4 is going to slide over in front of the x, and there you go. There's my factors. Okay. We just got a couple more here. On this one here, all right, 6 times 20 is 120. 120 divided by 1 is 120. 120 divided by 2 is 60. 120 divided by 3 is 40. 120 divided by 4 is 30. 120 divided by 5 is 24. 120 divided by 6 is 20. Just use your calculator for this. 120 divided by 7 is a decimal. 120 divided by 8 would be 15. 120 divided by 9 is a decimal. 120 divided by 10 is 12. 120 divided by 11 is a decimal, and then 12 is over there, so I'm done. Okay, so there's all my factors. All right, well now on this one, there's a minus right here, which means I want to subtract again. Seems like I'm subtracting on every one of these. It's getting blurry again. I got to subtract, and I got to get 7. All right, it looks like 8 and 15. All right, so x and 8, x and 15. That goes in my factors. But because of this 6 in front, I got to divide both of these by 6. Okay, now the signs, this sign right here goes to the big one, which 15 is bigger than 8, so that plus goes right here. And the last sign being a minus, again, last sign's a minus, I got to have a positive and a negative, so there's my positive, this will be my negative. Okay, now I can't have fractions, so I simplify them, so that's going to be 4/3 here, still a fraction. This simplifies to 5/2 there, still a fraction. If you can't simplify fractions, just use the calculator. But they're both fractions, so I take the denominator, slide it over in front of the x, and there's this one. Right here, take the denominator here, slide it over in front of the x, and there's my factors right there. Do the FOIL method and it should work out. Okay, now here's a different one. On this one right here, this is the first one like this. And you really need to check this, but on this one here, they all divide down. So you can make this whole process a lot easier by dividing it down, if it will. This is the first one that would divide down. If you look at this, 2 goes into all those. So I can factor a 2 out. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, 4x squared. minus 8 divided by 2 would be 4x, minus 30 divided by 2 would be 15. So I can factor out that 2 there. And that simplifies this down, makes it a little bit easier. One thing, though, you can't forget about this 2, so I'm going to go ahead and bring the 2 down and write it like this so I don't forget about the 2. Now, 4 times 15 is 60. 60 divided by 1 is 60. 60 divided by 2 is 30. That's a 30. 60 divided by 3 is 20. 60 divided by 4 is 15. 60 divided by 5 is 12. 60 divided by 6 is 10. 60 divided by 7, that's a decimal. 60 divided by 8 is a decimal. 60 divided by 9 is a decimal. And then 10's over there, so we're done. Okay, now, since there's a minus right there, I got to subtract and get 4. All right, that's going to be 6 and 10. Okay, because they'll subtract and get 4. So I've got an x and x. I've got a 6 and a 10. All right, now, because of this 4 in front, and remember, I factored the 2 out, so I'm not doing an 8, I'm doing a 4 now. I'm doing this, and I'm forgetting about the 2. So I've got to divide both of these by 4 because of the 4 in front. And then my signs. This one goes to the big one, which goes over here. See, 10 is bigger than 6. And then the last sign, being a minus, tells me I got to have a positive and a negative. So there's my negative. This one's got to be a positive. Okay, well, I've got fractions, and I'm not supposed to have fractions. So I simplify them. So this is going to be 3 over 2. This is going to be 5 over 2. And I still got this 2 in front. Okay, I still have fractions though, and I can't have those, so I just take the denominator and slide it over in front of the x here. So it's going to be a 2x plus 3. Do the same thing here, slide this denominator over in front of that x. 2x minus 5, and then don't forget about this 2 coming down, and then there would be my trinomial all factored down completely. Okay, now let's do one last one right here. This one looks like a hard one. I might have to use a calculator on this one. So I'm going to do, I got all these numbers, they don't break down. So 15 times 35. So 15 times 35 is 525. Okay. 525 divided by 1 is 525. 525 divided by 2 is a decimal. 525 divided by 3 would be, let's see, a 1, 22, 7, 175. 525 divided by 4 is a decimal. 525 divided by 5 is 105. 525 divided by 6 is a decimal. 7 goes into that, let's see here, 75 times. 525 divided by 8 is a decimal. 525 divided by 9 is a decimal. And you just use your calculator here, look. 525 divided by 10, see, it's a decimal. 525 divided by 11, nope, decimal. 525 divided by 12, decimal. 525 divided by 13, decimal. 525 divided by 15, and this one's going to work, 35. Okay, we still got a little ways to go. 525 divided by 16, nope, decimal. 525 divided by 17, nope. 525 divided by 18, nope. 525 divided by 19, nope. 525 divided by 20, nope. 525 divided by 21, there you go. 21 and 25. 22, 23, 24 won't work. 25 is right there, so that's all of them. Oh man, that was hard, wasn't it? Okay. Now, which ones add and get 31? So if I add on here and get 31, I don't think I find one. I don't see one that adds up to get 31. So this is what we call prime. This one is prime because I don't have any factors that add and get 31 on this. So it's prime. Okay? So that happens sometimes. That happens. Okay? All right, well, I think that's about all we've got time for today on this. All right, so that's factoring trinomials when a is 1 and when a is not equal 1. All right, so if you have any questions, just give us a shout.